Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
UFC Fight Night 141, Blaydes versus Ngannou 2 goes down this weekend in Beijing, China. It's a rematch, Rob. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because if you would have asked people like 6 months ago, they would have been getting pretty excited for a Francis Ngannou fight. But there doesn't seem to be the hype that the Predator once had.
No, it's weird. It's not just a one fight, it's a two fights. It's the Stipe Miocic fight and then the fight next against Derek Lewis, where the Derek Lewis one was the one that I think really, really soured people on him, because he looked like a fighter who was almost shot, or at least he was afraid to throw the shots that he used to throw, which is his game. He used to throw a lot of big shots and land a lot of big shots, was what his game was. So it is a bit of a weird one, because it seems like at the time when they fought, it ended a little bit weird. It ended on a doctor stoppage, so it kind of makes sense that they would rematch down the line. But Ngannou made it to the top so quickly, and it didn't seem like he would have been caught. But since those last couple of fights, now it actually feels like it's a rematch that kind of makes sense, even though Ngannou is coming off some losses.
Yeah, but I think the fact that Ngannou fought for the title,
exactly, he has the name there.
Yeah,
it makes sense in that way.
It's the way to catapult Curtis Blaydes. And let's be honest, Dana White absolutely hates Francis Ngannou now. And he really goes,
I wonder why.
Dana White is like a bloke who his girlfriend breaks up with him, and he's like, she was a bitch, I never liked her anyway. Do you know what I mean? He's one of them guys, you know what I mean? They'll be sharing videos of them on certain channels. But Curtis Blaydes here, this is a fight that could propel him. But at the same time, a little bit of me is pretty excited to see an angry, determined Francis Ngannou. Will that be the case? Because let's be honest, the man is an absolute monster. When he starts throwing, he's a monster. But he's got his hands full here with Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes is on an absolute run at the minute, and he is on a title run. A lot of people felt for him when Derek Lewis got the call for the title fight instead of him. Yeah,
what's kind of strange for me in this one is to look at where their mindsets are, because you think that, Ngannou has a win over him, so you think, okay, he has the mental edge. But now Ngannou has lost his kind of, whatever you want to call it, the mystique, you want to call it that. He's almost lost that. So with Curtis Blaydes coming in here, and as well, the first fight, you have to remember that was his first fight in the UFC, Curtis Blaydes. And I thought he had a pretty good performance. If it didn't get stopped there, I don't think there was any guarantee Ngannou was going to win that fight, because Blaydes was landing some good shots. He did get some takedowns. So it's kind of weird to think, one guy has a win over the other, so you think he has probably a mental edge, but not really, because Ngannou seems to be almost regressing in his career, especially mentally.
What do you think the game plan is here? Curtis Blaydes get Ngannou on his back as quick as he can?
You think so? Like when Curtis got a little bit comfortable, he started landing takedowns, and Ngannou was has this weird thing where he just stands back up. It's almost like Derek Lewis does it quite a lot. He just stands back up. Now there is some technique there, but he does a good job of doing it.
Just stands back up.
No,
and it's like, I'm trying to hold you down as much as I can, and you just stand up.
Particularly in this fight, there was an underhook and he got back to his feet, but it just seemed effortless. Now I do think that Blaydes has made huge improvements, as I think Ngannou, especially from back then, has made improvements as well. But it's almost since he got that title fight, it seems like it's kind of either declined or he's just been the same guy.
Do you think though Ngannou against Derek Lewis, do you think he was trigger shy because he was afraid of the striking of Derek Lewis, or in this fight will he potentially be trigger shy because he's expecting the takedown, so he doesn't want to overcommit and for Blaydes to change level? So that's it's almost two different.
He has more to think about now, doesn't he? So yeah, it could have been both of them. I think Derek Lewis hits hard, but so does Curtis Blaydes, and they're both heavyweights. So I don't think Ngannou's coming in here. A lot of fans and a lot of media would look at fighters fighting, say, a heavyweight and say, oh, well, this guy punches harder. I think most guys at heavyweight punch fairly hard. Yeah. So especially when you're fighting in that division, you're probably not like, oh, well, I'm afraid of this guy's power, but not this. Because, Curtis Blaydes hits very hard. We've seen it.
This is the thing about, I know people disagree and that there is levels to MMA, but, at heavyweight, it can be unforgiving. The slightest mistake at heavyweight can be capitalized on, and it could be literally the guy who's the lowest ranked in the division could just happen to throw that one punch that catches you, and the momentum and power behind it as a heavyweight could put you out. It's weird because this is a weird for me as watching. I want to see Blaydes now have his opportunity. Yeah, but I also want to see Ngannou sort of make a comeback back around. I had actually said that he'd be champion by the end of 2018.
Not going to get that.
I said he wouldn't beat Stipe, but I said he'd beat him in a rematch. That was my original prediction. That went by the wayside. But the weird thing is, if Blaydes beats Ngannou here, and let's say Blaydes beats him well, the way Blaydes has been winning his last few fights against Alistair Overeem, against Mark Hunt, you know what I mean? If he wins in a dominant fashion, in a dominant style, it could really spell trouble for Francis Ngannou. And I don't mean the whole cutting thing. I mean, he needs a performance, Ngannou. And if he goes out now 3 fights and doesn't perform, that could be his career shot.
Yeah, especially if it's a bad performance. If he goes out there and he throws like he used to and he just loses a competitive fight, I think you can say Blaydes has made huge improvements, which we know he has, and maybe it's a bad style match up for him, because on paper it probably is. You know, Blaydes a good wrestler and a good striker. He's developed into that.
Yeah.
It probably is. And the big thing in the last fight, when I rewatched it, what I thought was that the real reason why Blaydes couldn't get takedowns because Ngannou was just throwing a lot. He was throwing a lot of strikes, and anytime Blaydes was coming in, he was throwing. He hasn't thrown in his last couple of fights. So if he doesn't throw in this fight, if he isn't on his game, if he's not mentally there and he's trigger shy, I think that's a bad combination for him. And I think Blaydes will win, and I think he'll probably finish him. It's probably with ground and pound, because once he gets on top, he's vicious. So I'm going with Blaydes. I think Blaydes is going to win this. I think he's the favourite. We'll get the odds in a minute.
I can't disagree with that.
I think Blaydes wins by ground and pound, probably mid-round, probably late round 2, early round 3, that type of thing.
But I cast you back to the night he Pez dispensed Alistair Overeem.
As in,
would you be picking? Yeah, as in
probably
Ngannou,
not. A couple of fights changed a lot of things. Yeah, and it's that he threw that uppercut or the shovel hook that he landed on over a lot against Blaydes. And Blaydes couldn't change levels.
I think Francis Ngannou was actually the prime example of, for MMA, the way both the sport is covered by media, is promoted by his promoter, and followed by the fans. He is the embodiment of you're only as good as your last fight.
100%.
And it's
last 2 fights.
It's like if he comes out and performs the way we've seen him perform again, that'd be all forgotten about again. But I find it hard to disagree with you. You can only look at the last couple of fights as the momentum, as the fighting patterning of the fighter. And for me right now, Francis Ngannou looks stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
He looks like he needs to, I don't know, like the whole him in the UFC Performance Institution and all that type of stuff, it just doesn't seem to have worked for him.
No, it doesn't.
Whatever he was doing before, go back
and see what happens.
The likes of,
you'd wonder what he is doing
with Dewey Cooper, the likes of them. They weren't in his corner in his last couple of fights, so it'd be interesting to go back and, you know what I mean. As in, sometimes it's like when people taste success, they change things because they get, you know what I mean. It's you should stick with what got you there.
Yeah.
By all means, you can bring certain people in. Like there's an example, a lot of people would, when they're talking about Conor McGregor, would say, why doesn't he move to a bigger camp, because that's what got him there.
Yeah.
He became a 2 weight class champion with where he is, so he held on to that loyalty. He brings people in, and then you see other people like TJ Dillashaw is a good example.
Yeah.
He was doing well at Alpha Male, and then
he felt like he needed to change.
Yeah.
He felt like he needed to do something to improve. Yeah.
Yeah, and he moved. So there's, the argument of the coin, but I just think whatever it was that Francis Ngannou was doing, you got to see that. Look at that blueprint. Have a holistic view of your career and go, hold on, everything was working brilliantly up until here. What changed?
Yeah.
And almost like when you
damn PI.
Almost when you download something that you shouldn't have downloaded on your computer, you have to reset it to the day before, and it works perfect. Excellent. So that's what you need to do, and that's what Francis Ngannou needs to do. But I'm going to go with Curtis Blaydes here on the evidence of how he's been performing.
Interesting note, and it'll apply to the next fight as well. Alistair Overeem's now training with Curtis Blaydes. Both guys, Ngannou and Blaydes, beat Overeem pretty badly. So I think that's a good training partner to have. I know he lost to Ngannou, but it's a good training partner
to have. Talk about a gym hopper.
Yeah, I know. Odds?
What are the odds, Sean? And Sean, who do you think?
So Curtis Blaydes is available at 4-9, while Ngannou is available at 7-4.
Wow. If you're an Ngannou fan.
For me, that 7-4 is literally just based off his last 2 fights.
What's that working in American odds? You know the over-under that they do it?
Yeah. He's a big underdog, Ngannou.
Yeah.
Big underdog?
Yeah.
That big, Jesus.
I'd be quite happy to take Ngannou at 7-4. Well, that's big enough for me to.
Yeah, you see, Sean's a punter.
Yeah, relatively big underdog, I should say. It's a good price.
Will we give you our Qatar tip out? Will we?
Oh, that might get me on a watch list somewhere.
No, we won't give the tip out. Back at friendlies. Your co-main event sees Alistair Overeem taking on UFC newcomer Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah.
Pavlovich.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Pavlovich.
Yeah.
I was talking about Alistair Overeem before, and Alistair Overeem, the Reem, obviously he's actually his last 2 fights, as you said, was losses against Curtis Blaydes and Francis Ngannou. But Overeem's the type of guy that, because of his name and because of who he is, if he gets a big win, he's all of a sudden back in the conversation.
Yeah, he's a big name, yeah.
But for me, like Alistair, he's torn his style of fighting. I always remember an interview with Bas Rutten about Alistair Overeem, and he was talking about, we always used to tell him to keep his hand up because you've no chin. You've no chin. You have a glass jaw. You will get knocked out if you keep your hands down. And the first thing he started doing when he went to Black Zillions was fighting with his hands down, thinking he was or whatever. And that always stood out to me. I remember that interview brilliantly with Bas Rutten. Bas, shoots straight from the hip, tells you as it is.
Yeah.
But Overeem has then decided to take away that, put my hands back up and use his feet to run away. He's notable resetting, as we're phrasing it. He's running away. I would run away from some of these big men too. But what he's up against in Pavlovich is somebody who is going to run at you and throws shots in multiple combinations. You're talking 8, 10, 12 punch combinations. I say punch because that's what he does a lot. He closes the range coming in, throwing these flurry of punches, and then when he gets close, he might throw a knee. But one thing I'd pick up on in the fights that I've watched, you go put his name in YouTube and you'll see there's great highlight reels of him because he is an absolute highlight reel machine. But he charges forward.
Yes.
And he's a little up. And like Alistair Overeem is an elite striker. Now, I know you've seen him get knocked out and stuff like that, but he's like Alistair Overeem has some serious wins. He is still an elite striker. He doesn't lose that. Will he have to pick him apart? Will Pavlovich's pressure be too much? I think the pressure is what's going to be the big telling.
One, yeah.
And as you said as well, he's not just this region. He comes from an extensive wrestling background.
Yeah, I was trying to look to see what his wrestling background is. I can't see exactly what it is, but apparently he comes from a pretty decorated Greco-Roman background, which is not surprising for a Russian that he has a wrestling background.
MMA.
But yeah, I think the big one in this is first thing first. I think very dangerous fight for Overeem to take.
Yeah.
A really, really, I suppose, unknown or relatively unknown prospect, a 12-0 Russian guy coming in to fight you, who in all of his fights, as you said, he just throws punches and combinations. He might be a little bit predictable for the better strikers in the division, which you could probably say Overeem is. So you wouldn't be surprised if Overeem caught him coming in with something, because he doesn't really mix up his strikes. It's punches and it's generally jab, cross, jab, cross, jab, cross all the way. But his hand speed is ferocious. And I think that's the big one. I just get glimpses of Overeem versus Bigfoot in my mind. Remember when Overeem was just taking them shots with his hands down and just got knocked? I just have visions of that. There's also people comparing this guy to Brock Lesnar, just its physique and his size. I don't think he's quite on that level, but it is there.
Big. He is a big man.
He's a big. He's like he's 250 odd, not quite 265 of pure muscle, but big dude. Man, I'm going with him. I'm going with Pavlovich. Well, I think he's going to land a shot maybe in the first or second round and put out Overeem.
I don't think Overeem has a chin anymore. I don't think, as Bass was alluding to, but he never had a chin. He always had to be defensive of it. He was great at it in his earlier days, but he's getting older as well now. Overeem, I think Overeem's like 38, 39 years of age. He's 38. Topology say 38. So he's getting up there. He's same age as me, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's old.
And comparing yourself to elite athletes, I love it.
There I am again.
It's the trend of the show.
But,
if he's anything like me.
If he's anything like me, he struggles to put his socks on in the morning. But yeah, I always liked Alistair Overeem. I was really excited when he signed for the UFC. But this is a very dangerous fight against a very dangerous opponent. And it's weird because when you watch his highlights, he tends to catch a lot of his opponents just behind the ear with a loop and right hand and knocks the
his hand speed is insane.
And then comes in and lands shots.
He doesn't move like a heavyweight.
No,
he doesn't.
Yeah, but he's open. He is susceptible to a counter.
He is. And Overeem's tricky at times. The
way he closes the distance. If I'm picking, by the way, I am picking Sergey here, but if Overeem was to finish him, he'll catch him coming in. No. I'm picking the Russian.
But I'm just saying, if I'm wrong,
if Overeem wins, he'll do him with a knee in the clinch.
Nice. Yeah, potentially.
Because he closes in and he tries to throw his knees and they're they're not sloppy, but they're not
Yeah.
crisp like Overeem's. What's the odds, Sean? Who are you picking?
Overeem is available at 11-10, while Pavlovich is 8-11. I'm gonna go Pavlovich as well. 8-11's
Nice.
a nice price for me as well. I'm gonna take that one.
Now I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna go into a little of the unknown. Rob, being the encyclopedia of MMA he is, was like,
Just
oh no,
an absolute nerd.
I know these guys. Actually, on Yan taking on Shuri Kondo, 9-1 taking on 6-1. Rob, talk to me.
Yeah, Yan reminds me, if you look at the way she strikes, almost like Joanna in the early days. Remember when Joanna came into the division and she was fighting people who weren't quite that good at striking? And she just looked like head and shoulders above. And she still does that to some fighters right now. But she's now fighting the absolute elite of the elite and people who can strike. But Yan striking reminds me of that. Her jab is beautiful, just slips out of the way of strikes. And she's going up against Kondo, who I remember the last fight I saw that she got crippled with a body kick. And her striking doesn't look that good. Her takedowns, again, didn't look that great to me. I'm just going to go quick on this one. I just think Yan all day in this one. To be honest, I think it's a terrible fight for Kondo. I think Yan's going to win, and it's going to be highlight reel stuff.
Ooh, highlight reel stuff.
Yeah.
What are the odds, just as a matter of interest there, Sean?
Yan is available at 2-9,
Oh,
so
jeez.
it's a very big favour, and Kondo is available at 7-2.
Classic Rob. Yadong Song taking on Vince Morales.
Yadong Song is another kind of legit prospect, I think, in the division. Excellent striker. To be honest, I could say similar things to him that I did just said in the last fight. Very, very good striker. Just slips out of the way of strikes. Just going to repeat what I said. Just put that in a repeat and I'll go. But really good, and has knockout power in the bantamweight division, which isn't, the most common thing. And Morales, I think he was on the Contender Series as far as I remember. I remember watching that fight. He got finished. Looked good. He has a wrestling background. But I've watched Song. I just think he's a really, really good fighter. He has really good takedown defense. And he's that guy. I think he was like sent away at 10, to become a martial arts expert. That guy, the classic story. So he's been training for this his whole life. And I just think he has too much.
This really sounds like a script.
Yeah, I know.
He's straight for this moment his whole life.
It comes down to this one
comes in
fight.
Beijing, China.
Yeah, I just think he has too much. I don't see, like, if the wrestling gets going and we get to see Yadong on his back, which we haven't really seen that much, maybe something will happen, but I just see his striking too much and his takedown defense too much, scrambles too much.
I'm going to go against you in this one,
Nice.
and it's a weird reason why I'm going against you,
Okay.
right? Because he went on Dana White's Contender, right? He got finished in the first round.
Went off and won,
Morales, right? Went off and fought in Bellator. Had one fight in Bellator, and the UFC signed him.
Yeah.
You don't see that all that often.
No.
Like, he didn't get into the UFC. He signed for the competition.
Yeah.
And then they went, actually,
We'll take you back.
no, we'll
Interesting.
have you back. So the reason for that, coming from a wrestling background, I'm going to go with Morales.
Nice.
Decision win. Sean.
The odds are Rob has, believe it or not, picked another favourite. Song Yadong is available at 1-4, and Vince Morales 3-1.
Ooh, 3-1.
Jeez.
A juicy tenner will get you 40 bucks.
To be fair, I picked an underdog last week and they won.
Very
Just
short
saying.
priced underdog.
Yeah. Nice. Sean, shut up.